Why are we here today? We're here to mobilize and to help everybody here understand that the breadth and the depth of the opposition to this fee process and to the process of the current Rec and Park Department management. And because on Wednesday, April 6th, there will be a showdown between two different points of view expressed in two different ordinances. This year, Supervisor John Avalos introduced an ordinance to terminate the fee by transferring some money from new tax that was passed in November, the real estate transfer tax, to the RPD to compensate them for the fee for the rest of the year and terminate the fee. Well, that's going before the Budget and Finance Committee on Wednesday. But Mayor Lee, at the behest, we're certain, of Philp Ginsburg and Mark Buell, the commissioner, introduced an ordinance which would make the fee permanent by doing two things. It would eliminate the sunset clause in the fee that was passed unanimously by the entire Board of Supervisors last year. That is, amendments put in without objection to sunset the fee on June 30th, and if there is a new tax passed, like the real estate transfer tax that could be used for operations and maintenance here, then the fee authority would expire within 90 days of the passage of the law. In either case, the fee was scheduled to be terminated this year. But Mayor Lee has introduced a measure to wipe out those amendments that were put in without objection under David Chu's gavel, and he's proposed to make it permanent. So that's why we're here, to help you guys understand the importance of Wednesday's showdown at the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, and to ask you, once you've listened to everybody that has something to say here, to commit yourself, if you're available, if you can do it, to show up on Wednesday at 1 o'clock in the legislative chambers on the second floor at City Hall to attend and hopefully testify against the fee and against Mayor Lee's measure and for Supervisor Avalos' measure, which has the support of Supervisor Mercarimi, Supervisor Kim, Supervisor Campos, and Supervisor Eric Marr.
Being here with you today in solidarity with us, trying to reverse what was a very misguided decision in imposing this fee, one that I spoke out against ever since the concept had come across our attention, is that this is more than just about the Arboretum. This is a larger issue, and I'm afraid it's a harbinger of things to come about the very direction that this city and county is taking, and it just happens to be the epicenter playing itself out with Rec and Park property, and it's about privatization. We have seen these encroachments, whether it's the Japanese tea garden or other attractions within our Rec and Park system, where it's a little bit of erosion, a little bit of chip away, a little bit of juicy rationalization in order to try to seduce, in order to try to certainly appeal to a reasonable body that this is a benign strategy in order to just further the interest of the people of San Francisco, the taxpayers, the people dependent on Rec and Park.
He told a little bit of my story already, but my stories are pretty short, so I'll say it again. Thanks for attending our rally today. Yay! My name is Karen Anderson, and I'm a docent for the children's program at the San Francisco Botanical Garden / Arboretum. As in Striving Arboretum, a name we should never forget. I just have a quick little story to tell you because I liked it so much. Last Wednesday, I was being a docent to 7-year-olds, and this little boy who had never been in this garden before said, as we were in the middle of all the trees and everything, he said, "Is this Raiders of the Lost Ark?" I loved it. Anyway, besides the 2 seasons of classes that we have to take to become a docent, we have enrichment classes to take. Recently at our class at the Presidio, the educator asked the class, which was about 25 docents, he said, "What's going on in the Arboretum, in the Botanical Garden?" And he said, "Why have you agreed to this fee to enter a public garden?" And I said, "Well, not all of us have agreed to do this, to the have fees and ID checks." And then our educator proceeded to say that he used to visit the garden 2 to 3 times every week. And now when he goes, it feels empty. And his words were, "It seems like the soul has been sucked out of the place." And that he doesn't go to the botanical garden anymore. I've heard similar stories from my friends, family, and neighbors and their children when they come into town. I even know a docent who quit being a docent because she said, "The spirit of the garden is lost, and she doesn't feel good coming here anymore when she sees toll booths and when she is asked for her ID." Temporary residents of the city, like the residents up the street at UCSF, are even asked to prove residency by bringing in their PG&E and phone bills. Now, how do you feel about San Francisco's hospitality when you hear that? Please do the right thing and drop the fees and IDs.
It's good to live in a free country where, even though I work for the department that's pushing this nasty fee, that I can still speak against it. I've lived in this neighborhood for the past 35 years. I've raised 2 children here. I've worked for the Recreation and Park Department for the past 26 years. Nearly 20 of those years as a gardener in this very garden. The fee and the prospect of a wider fee is ruining the spirit of this place. This once free, open, and vibrant space is no longer host to half the people or activities it once was. The gardeners I used to work with tell me that most of the time the place is like a morgue. Like a morgue, the spirit is gone. They tell me it's no fun to work here anymore. A half-open gate, blocked by an ugly ticket booth, demands proof of residency. A fee, $7 for adults, and they charge children $4. Striving Arboretum is 50 acres in our public park. It's not a plaything or the property of the Arboretum Society. The Arboretum Society was formed to support these gardens for the benefit of the people of this city. The Arboretum Society has seriously violated the spirit of its mission. For the past year, the Arboretum Society has been paying the lobbyist Sam Lauder $10,000 a month to unduly and wrongly influence our city government. The Arboretum Society has seen fit to close the Helen Crocker Russell Library for 3 days a week. Enough about the society. They do many good things. Children's education, docents, volunteers. There are many excellent people there. But the push for a fee and control is wrong and misguided. And many of the Arboretum Society's own members do not support it. What can I say? What is a park for? Who is a park for? John McLaren, in his early years leading this park, was approached by the park commissioners. They said, "These lawns are starting to look very nice. You should have signs painted, signs that say, 'Stay off the grass.'" McLaren heard this and he thought about it, and he went back and he had the paint shop paint up 100 signs that said, "Walk on the grass." And that was the spirit that motivated the park for all the time that McLaren ran it, and for many years thereafter. I fear that now we are beginning to lose that spirit, and we need to recapture it.
My name is Diane Wilson. I'm a third-generation San Franciscan, actually, and moved back up here a few years ago, and am appalled at what's going on with the Arboretum. And I think it's basically the tip of the iceberg in the city and the state. And I'm here to show my support to keep the Arboretum free for all residents of San Francisco, as well as anyone. as it has been for many, many years. I was born in the 50s, and I grew up basically. I grew up a few blocks away from here, and we need to keep it private. And during the Greatest Depression in this country, every park was free. There was no such movement like this. In fact, quite the opposite. There was quite a movement to have more parks, more public buildings, more community centers, specifically because there's 25% unemployment. So even given that unprecedented event, we were not turning to privatizing our parks.
And who's behind this?
Well, at this point, it's people with money. It's basically whoever's in the private sector. Now, in this particular case, this is just a private entity trying to take over a public entity. Is my perception of this.
You're saying Botanical Society paid $100,000 for a lobbyist to get the entrance fee, the privatization fee. What's going on?
That's what the private sector does. They employ lobbyists.
So what did they do?
So, well, this says it all. That could have saved a lot of money. If the issue is revenue in terms of upkeep, and I know that taxes are lower, however, we just extended the Bush tax cuts. Again, the fish stinks from the head. There's a lot of this is coming from Washington. So if $100,000 probably could have gone pretty far in maintaining this, which actually it's a very natural environment. There actually shouldn't be that much maintenance involved here because that's the point of the Arboretum. It's a naturalist place. And I'm in my mid-50s. I've been coming here since I was a child. And frankly, what I've seen is they're putting more hardscape in, frankly, is what I've seen since I moved back here in the last 6 years. So keeping it in its natural state should not warrant doing this.
What do you think about a charter amendment in San Francisco banning privatization and outsourcing in the city?
Absolutely, all in favor. I think that's what it's going to take to stop this, because this is the tip of the iceberg. Like a cancer, it will spread to other parks, and this is the greatest gem in the country, actually, in terms of a public city park. For a city this size, a pretty small city, to have a park of this magnitude on a par with Central Park, but it's larger and it's a jewel actually for the country and the world. We need to stop it here.
A lot of families who come to visit San Francisco, they can't afford to come in. So the number of people going into the park has actually declined, the botanical gardens.
Absolutely, we've seen this. I mean, I remember when the Japanese tea garden, when this happened in the '60s with the Japanese tea garden, and I'm sure it went down. I know it went down in terms of our field trips in my school. We used to come here all the time in the '60s, in the early '60s. So yeah, it hurts the locals. It hurts people coming in from other areas of the state as well. People who can't afford to live in San Francisco but want to come in here and avail themselves of the stuff that's here, which is a beautiful city. So absolutely.
My name is Pierre Fraisse. I live in the Sunset by Sunset Boulevard, and I am lovers of the Botanical Garden. I come here many times, when I use the Golden Gate Park, either for walking, running, and mountain biking, but I do that on the trail on the other side. But so we have been getting together to try to stop actually this policy from the city that wants actually to transform this park into a private park. I mean, asking people to pay a fee to get into, and we do believe that it's totally inappropriate, that it's 55 acres, part of Golden Gate Park. This is public land, and it should be kept access free for everyone. So this is why we are here today. We have organized this rally, and we hope that a lot of people are going to join us to make the stand to RPD and to the Mayor Lee that wants actually to put an ordinance that is going to ask for the fee to become permanent, and we try to oppose this permanent.
Well, who does Mayor Ed Lee represent?
I think he has been appointed by the previous mayor and some luminary of the city of San Francisco. I think he doesn't represent anyone because he hasn't been elected so far. So unless he goes in front of the voter and got a majority of the vote, he doesn't represent nobody but himself.
And do you think some people like the wealthy feel that there's not enough money to support the park, so we have to charge a fee to pay for the services of the park?
what kind of slur word do you want me to find to say about that? There is plenty of money. It's not a question of actually what the funding that is actually coming to the San Francisco budget right now. It's about actually where you look for money. And we pass a Proposition N, the San Francisco voter passed Proposition N, which is actually a transfer tax for real estate. It's going to bring more money to the city in the range, I think, between $35 and $40 million. And in order, to fund this park and the gardener, the botanical garden, they need something around $250,000 a year. So they really have plenty of money. This is just a question of where do you spend, what are the priorities, and obviously they have other priorities right now.
Well, Warren Hellman and the billionaires, there are 18 billionaires in San Francisco, feel that they're paying too much taxes,
Really? I don't know how they get this feeling from, What does it make differences for them if they pay another percentage, on their income? No, this is a joke. No, the point is that we are nationwide, from Washington all the way down now to the West Coast and to San Francisco. We are, experiencing a huge takeover of this country by corporations, and they are effectively, making huge profit, and they are asking the people actually to bail them out. And then to get them, running their business. And we need to fight back that. We need to fight back.
Well, this privatization of public services is going on in France. You're in France, and there's been a long struggle for commons, free spaces. This seems to be a world struggle for fight of public resources and public services. What's the solution?
Well, actually, I think number one solution is that you need to have people need to go in the street. When you see the way that actually the French people, and also in England, for example, when the Cameron government came out with this new budget, people went massively in the street. The students in England also protested very strongly to say, no, that's not exactly the policy that we want. And I think this is the key part of pushing back is effectively have a wide popular mobilization. And this is what we try to achieve today here, to send a message actually to City Hall and say, no, go get your money somewhere else, not in our pocket.
There are 18 billionaires in San Francisco. You think they should be taxed too?
Well, listen, I wish that all these billionaires will be generous enough to become philanthropes. We got a hearing that actually we need to have a tax break actually for charity. On your 1040, you effectively report your charity donation, and you get a tax break for that.
Didn't they get their billions by taking it from the people?
First place. So one of the way they can give it back is by effectively showing spending it through foundation and charity. That's what the tax code is set up for. So we are waiting for them. We are waiting for them to give away their wealth. Like actually would say that.
Is that waiting for Godot though? You think they're going to give away?
Yeah, exactly. We are still waiting for that. So either way, we are waiting too long. We are going effectively to tax them.
Okay, thanks.
I'm really happy that they're charging people to go into the Arboretum now, because whenever I go, there's nobody in the Arboretum and it's all mine. So that's why I'm here. I'm protesting. I want this to be for free. It is now. This place should be for free.
I'm Reva Entine. I raised my kids in San Francisco. I love San Francisco. I have my dog here. And the way I heard about this protest actually was at the free event at the public library talking about the WPA in San Francisco in the 30s and the concept that the government provided services and jobs for the people. And now they're taking away, I guess this is 70 years that this has been a free benefit of San Francisco. And my favorite moment with Obama was his acceptance speech when he said he wanted to emulate FDR in the New Deal. And that was the high moment, and it's been all downhill from there. And to think that I, as a public sector worker, I'm looking at increased pension costs and health care costs for my kid, that they're attacking collective bargaining. To think, you know, the New Deal is such hallowed ground, so it was an amazing event and concept to think about. And
the Democrats approve this and say that there's not enough money, and this despite the fact there are 18 billionaires in San Francisco.
Exactly. Let's go after those 18 billionaires. It's tax the rich. I mean, there was the big headline in the Chronicle yesterday about even Republicans, the majority, think the rich should be taxed more. Just the top 1%, whatever, you know, tax the rich, don't charge people to come to Golden Gate Park.
And the Assembly member wishes he could be here. Unfortunately, he's in San Mateo talking about the state budget. And as we talk about the state budget, we're certainly aware of what happens when you don't have any money. But the challenge here is, and I thought about this on the way over, if you have an arboretum and no one goes in, do you really have an arboretum?
No.
I'm Sheila Tully, and I live in the Richmond district, and one of the reasons I live there is because of Golden Gate Park, and I'm really tired of how little of the park is really accessible to people who actually live here. When my daughter was little and we didn't have much money, we came to the Arboretum every day because it was free. And charging non-residents is the first step, just like the Japanese tea gardens, and then charging residents is the second step. Parks should be free.
And this privatization effort, a lot of students who go to school in San Francisco State, they're not going to be able to afford $7.
Well, and my daughter, in high school, there's fewer and fewer public spaces for kids. And my daughter comes to the Arboretum after school to hang with her friends and walk around the park. And we're making it impossible for people, ordinary folks, to stay in San Francisco. It's become a Disneyland and a park for the rich.
And what's going on at San Francisco State with privatization of education and fee increases and layoffs in the budget?
It's, you know, it's devastating. It's really devastating. Many of my students work 40 hours a week and try to go to school full time. They pay tuition, they buy their books, and by midterm they're dropping out because they can't manage it. We're looking at layoffs of tenured faculty, closing departments. Kids can't get the classes they need. They also can't major in what they really want because those departments are impacted. We're destroying public education, period.
And there are 84 billionaires in California, 18 billionaires in San Francisco?
That's right. That's right. Tax the rich. They can manage. They won't be hurt.
What's your view on this effort to demolish 1,500 homes in Park Merced next to San Francisco State?
You know, I'm so up to my eyeballs on campus things that I haven't really been following it that closely. I'm very concerned about rent control in the city and trying to keep regular folks living in San Francisco. So generally, the trend is not in favor of working people, so I'm very concerned generally.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Are you going to be out tomorrow on April 4th?
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about that?
Well, for us, this week is spring break at San Francisco State, so it's been hard to do turnout, but students are mobilizing. We're hoping to, we'll be walking with Jobs with Justice, and we're hoping to have a good turnout of San Francisco State and City College students and faculty.
You think that this development in Wisconsin is going to spread to California?
Well, it has. I mean, on both sides, I think. The takeaways are coming to California, but so is the pushback, and I'm very hopeful that the conversation will change. I'm old enough to remember when we were called public servants. We were not considered pigs at the trough.
Okay, why don't you start?
Okay, so my name is Harry Pariser. I live in the Inner Sunset, and we're here today on the 2nd of April 2011. Since 1990, the San Francisco Botanical Garden Society, which was then called the Striving Arboretum Society, has tried to put in a fee because they want to exclude people and commercialize this place. Now, this took the manifestation in 1990. Art Agnos said no way, and that had to be dropped. Then in 2009, they proposed a resident fee and a non-resident fee. And then after there was a lot of protest against, then it turned into a non-resident fee.
And this gate here, what does this gate represent?
And okay, so we're coming to that. Okay, so this gate right here is, this fence was built up here after this, a taxpayer expense, presumably at somebody's expense, and that blocks the entrance to the demonstration gardens. You have to go around here and pay $7. If you can't show you're from San Francisco through a picture ID, you have to pay the money. Now, there's no reason why people should be showing ID in a public park. And
who's behind this privatization?
Michael McKechnie, the San Francisco Botanical Garden Society, Mark Buell, who's the head of the Recreation and Park Committee, one of the richest men in the world. He's married to Susie Tompkins Buell, who started the spree and has been banned from its factory premises for being a nutcase.
So corporate interests are behind this privatization, is that what you're saying?
I absolutely would think so.
And Philp Ginsburg?
And Philp Ginsburg is put in there to be a hench person for privatization, and he doesn't listen to people, he doesn't answer any questions, he makes fun of his opponents, he always has a sneer on his face, he has complete contempt for the people of San Francisco.
And the new mayor, Ed Lee, says he supports a permanent fee.
Right.
Who does he represent?
New member Ed Lee was actually selected by Willie Brown and Rose Pack. He doesn't seem to represent anybody's interest, and they say he was a progressive, but God, if he's a progressive, I want to know what a right-wing conservative is, because in terms of his actions, they're pretty conservative, you know.
So he doesn't want to tax the billionaires, the 18 billionaires in San Francisco?
Of course he doesn't. He wants his job back, this $255,000 a year job back, you know. The hippie haircut and being a social activist were in the 1970s, that's not 2011.